Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. My name is Kim Milner and I am going to be your presenter. I want to thank you first for joining us today. We will be, for future reference, recording this and archiving it, and you can access it on the Florida IPDAE website. Now, just a little bit about IPDAE. If you're not familiar with us, IPDAE is really something that's creating educator resources, and it's being created by educators. So it's for educators and being created by educators, and that we think makes it very unique. If you are new to IPDAE, you will want to check out this and more resources on the website, floridaipdae.org, and you have a couple of links to that on these screens, and you also have some in your handouts. Like I said, the session is being recorded, and on the IPDAE website is where you'll find a copy of that recording in the archives section. Like I said before, my name is Kim Milner, and these are resources that I have developed for beginning algebra and pre-algebra. I'm a college professor. I teach at Indian River State College. I'm also the department chair of developmental education. I teach developmental math, and these are the two courses that we focus on with students, trying to get them ready for their college level and their college credit work. So we call them MAT 18 and MAT 28, and they lead students into, or prepare students for, what we call intermediate algebra. It's MAT 1033. You may have heard of this course wherever you are. Probably this is one that's getting a lot of national coverage because MAT 1033 is a course that causes a lot of failure of students to finish their college math requirement. At one time it was the #1 failure course in the nation. So to prepare students for algebra, which is what they're going to hit when they first come in to take college level algebra, these two courses, this is something that we started, or I started, and developed some resources that we've had a good bit of success with. So we're sharing them with you through IPDAE and hoping you'll have some uses for them with your students. First, the resources are broken down into two sections. As I was telling you, I've got two different courses here. When I started developing them, though, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background, we noticed something about our students that you may have noticed about yours. We noticed that their attention was really selective and very limited. My students have just very short attention spans, and it's sort of because, I think, because of where they're coming from in the world. When I was working on these materials, I happened to be in Best Buy one day, and I noticed, I went in to pick up something, but there was a line that went all the way around the store, people standing in line all the way around the store and out the entrance. And I couldn't figure out what it was, and so I asked when I checked out. These were teenagers, mostly young people, and they were lined up to sign up for the newest version of Super Mario 3D for Nintendo Wii. And it was sort of an incredible thought to me that they weren't even there to pick it up. They were signing up so they could get the first issues that came out. Now, their attention is selective, and they focus in on what they want to focus in on. And a lot of that is interactive, and it's gaming, and it's quick-paced. And so these are some of the things I was sort of thinking as I was trying to get my algebra students to pass these classes and to get them prepared for college-level math. There's a quote that I really love back from a graphic communication and crisis in education article, A Crisis in Education in 1957. You would not think that it would be the same crisis that we're having today, but it really is. And this was by Neil Miller. He said, in order to learn, one must notice something. And noticing something is where we struggle with getting our students to pay attention to what we're doing. So this was all coming to fruition when I was working on my PhD in instructional design, and I started working on these lessons and started designing some really short interactive lessons that were focused, that would not take up too much time, that were concise, and they were to the point, and they just hit the material that the student needed to learn and sort of spoke to the way that they learn and the way that they like to process their world. As we know, they have the world right there in the palm of their hand. We have online resources. We can find anything and everything on the internet, and our students do too. They're carrying it around with them in their phone even. But the problem is it's very often too much. The resources that they can pull up if they want to go into graphing quadratic equations or solving quadratic equations are limitless. And if they try to pull out the important ones or the ones that they can actually learn from, it's sort of like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, literally it can be dangerous. So in thinking all this, these resources, I believe, do come to the point, teach a lesson, and they teach it in a short, concise manner that our students are sort of geared to and enjoy learning from. So what do the lessons look like? Well, sort of like this. These are the table of contents, and they're printed, and they're available as PDFs for you to print. There are 42 lessons that are in a course, what we call pre-algebra. And if you just scroll down with me and look at these, you can see that they start with place value, and they go through things like multiplying and dividing whole numbers, and we go into looking at equations, solving equations. We look at fractions. We talk about mixed numbers and decimals, and then we move on into things like area and perimeter and percent problems. And that, for us, is a complete course called Pre-Algebra. It's the very first of the prep math courses for college. It's the very first course that they would take in developmental math. And you may recognize that if you teach high school math, this is one of the things that would be right around Algebra 1 or even before that. So this is background information. So many of our students, of my students who come to college and of students who are going into GED programs have been out of math for a very long time. And they need this refresher. And these lessons do provide the refresher that they very often need to move forward in math. And they can go through the lessons as quickly as they want to, since they're all provided online for them. The next course, and the next table of contents you see, is beginning algebra. Now, that one is a little bit quicker paced course. It has a little bit more material. It has 44 lessons, but as you can see, if you look down on the right-hand side, some of them have multiple pages. So the lessons may be a little bit longer. Each page is one video. Sometimes it's longer or multiple pages just because one problem may take half a page to demonstrate and work. And that's what these basic lessons are, is a lot of problems that have been worked. If you look at the two courses laid out together, you'll see that there is some overlap. We talk about fractions in both. We talk about multiplication and division of real numbers and of whole numbers. We talk about order of operations. The difference is the depth that the lessons may go into. So we're going to do some review in beginning algebra of the material that we covered in pre-algebra. Like I said, these were developed for my courses, my classes that I teach at Indian River. And so as such, they are complete courses in themselves. They are very comprehensive. They cover every topic that we cover in those two classes. So what does an individual lesson look like? Well, it consists of two parts. There's first a handout, which is a PDF, and it would be printed, and it looks very much like the video, which is what I call in an interactive PDF format. Now, these videos were created with a LiveScribe Smart Pen. If you've used the Smart Pen before, you know that it records everything you write with a little camera, and it records everything you're saying while you're writing. So you're basically talking to the pen as you work through writing these examples or problems. But it is a great way to do a math recording because it's difficult to get the math notation that we use. It's difficult to do it and type it and enter it with a computer, put it in PowerPoint. And this allows you to write and record as you're writing. The handout and the video look just exactly alike except for the green writing. The green writing on the video is the lecture. It's the part that you would write on the whiteboard or write on the chalkboard in your classroom as you're explaining how to work the problems. And of course it has recorded, the writing will appear as the words are being said. So as it's being narrated, that's where the green writing comes up. Now the interactive PDF is really kind of nice because it allows you to print after it has been written on. In other words, I could print the video PDF and it would print with the green printing on there. Not green, but it would just print with any color that you have that's on your printer. So you would actually have everything that was written down. Just as a note, if you're teaching classes, I use this when I'm teaching my algebra classes live also. I record everything that I'm saying in a classroom. I work off of a dot camera, and I write with a LiveScribe Smart Pen, so every lecture that I give is recorded. And as soon as class is over, in 5 minutes I can upload those to what we have available for the students online, and it can be an online resource for them. They can go on in and listen to that lecture over again, or they can listen to parts of the lecture over again. It's a great tool. The LiveScribe Smart Pen has proven to be a really nice tool. It might be nice also for taking notes. I have a lot of students who use it for advanced classes. They'll be actually taking notes and recording what the professor's saying as they go through the lesson, and that's really nice for going back in hard classes and things that are difficult to remember. The video PDF gives you another feature, and we call it interactive because at any point you can click on any of the green printing and it will start the video from there. So whereas a normal video, you have to sort of rewind it or fast forward it, this one you don't. You just click on the page and it starts talking and writing from wherever you click. I'll try to demonstrate that for you in just a minute. How does it work? Well, basically, your students or your whoever's using it would print the lesson, the handout, and then they would watch the video instruction and take notes as they go through it. Like I said before, the video does give an audio explanation, just like you would do in front of a class or on a whiteboard if you were allowing or if you were teaching a class and showing these same examples. But it does give the student control. It gives them the control of watching it at whatever setting, whatever time that they choose. This seems to fit with our particular population of students. And you can go back and the completed videos can be printed so that they can have a complete record of how to work problems as they go into their homework examples. Now this is, I was going to show you how to get to these resources really quickly if I can, and I put the links on the page for you, or the path of the links. FloridaIPDAE.org would be your starting point. And if I click here, I think it'll bring it up for us. There it goes. And this is the IPDAE website. The next link you need is the GED in Adult High School. And after that, it's lessons. As you can see, the pre-algebra and the beginning algebra are the first two folders under mathematical reasoning in lessons. And I say folders because a lot of these are just single lessons that you can see. We've got a lot more resources for you out here and a lot of more single lessons, but these two actually, I'll open beginning algebra for you, have all of the lessons that I've been talking about are here. And I think as I scroll down, we'll go all the way to 41. 41 different lessons here. Some of them have multiple pages in them, like we were talking about. I think if I click on this one, if I look at perhaps lesson number 10, I can show you, here's how the handout would come out, and it's a PDF that could just be printed. And then let's go back. And the video, this is the PDF video. Let me just see if I can load that and show you what it would come up as. Now, the PDF videos do have to have some tweaking to your computer. Usually it's nothing difficult, and the instructions are in the front of that folder that we just opened that have all of the resources in it. One thing you have to have is the latest version of Adobe Flash, and Adobe Reader has to also be installed. If everything isn't clicking, if your computer doesn't have Adobe Reader as the default PDF viewer, then you might have to actually download this video, save it to your desktop, and open it that way. And that usually handles all of the problems. And those instructions are listed for you at the beginning of the resources. Here, I'm just running my cursor across the screen, and wherever it is green, that's where I've put the video, and I've talked and written, and it will actually start playing from that point. I can play it, but you won't be able to hear it, so I'll let you play with those later and in your own time. I do want to note, though, that each lesson has some important points to remember at the beginning of it, and I try to put that on each page so that the student has, you know, things that they might want to put on flashcards. Like I give them 4 steps for solving equations: simplify, and then get terms to the same side, get rid of any number that's on the same side with the opposite operation, and then the last step would be divide. And we talk about those 4 steps quite often as we go through solving equations. And it's always the same 4 steps, but if they take what's in blocks at the beginning of these lessons, put it on a flashcard. Sometimes that really helps them, an index card, and that's kind of what these reminders and these lecture notes, I would call them, at the beginning of each lesson are really for. So that's what your video looks like. You can increase the size of it. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. You can print it. You can save it. You can download it. Do just about anything you want with these particular resources. I'm going to close that one out and go back and see if I can show you at the beginning. Here's your instructions for what you will need and a link for getting Adobe Reader in case you need that. Now, if I just want to mention one more thing. As we're working with technology, one of the things I'll always have is, there's always a quirk. There's always something that'll come up that might cause you some difficulty. And if it does, what I would suggest first is trying a different browser. Quite often that's the answer to my students when they run into trouble with their home computers is just go from Internet Explorer. Maybe it hasn't been updated lately, and maybe you can go into Chrome, Google Chrome, and it works better. So a different browser might be something you want to suggest or you want to try. Otherwise, downloading those videos usually does work. I meant to show you one more thing. Let me go back in here real quick because I think I can, and show you that we've also put these videos in another format for you under Lessons. Let's see, opened up the same one, and here you should see that you've got Lesson 1 handout, which is just a regular PDF, Lesson 1 video, which says PDF. That's my interactive PDF video created with the LiveScribe Smart Pen, and then the last link says video. It's an identical version of the PDF. It's just recorded with an MP4 in an MP4 format. Students before have told me that they'll watch the PDF video at home when they have their computer, but then if they're just wanting to hear a certain lesson again, and as we get more complicated in algebra and we're talking about solving quadratic equations, it does get more complicated, then they'll be playing these, whenever they have a spare minute, and they'll play them on their phone, in the car line while they're picking up their kids, just about any time. So that's what we put the MP4 link out there for, a different version of the same video, and every video should have those three components, every lesson. Okay. So now, how do we use them, and what do I suggest you do with these resources? Well, supplemental material. If students need just a little help in trying to understand material, or they just need a certain concept that they need to review, if they have been out of practice for a while, if they've been out of school, then this is a really quick introduction, and it can show them and give them about 5 or 6 worked examples, and usually it gets them started in the right direction. If it doesn't answer all of their questions, at least it does really get them going in the right direction. Another thing is a review for students. You may teach a lesson, and students may need just a little help remembering. Have you ever had them go home and say, man, I knew how to work it when I was in class. When she did it on the board, I could do it. And that's typical of math students. So a little bit of review, a little bit of a reminder about procedures and concepts, they can get this, and they can get it from anywhere. Backup for students who might be absent. If you have classes, formal classes, my daughter teaches she teaches math in a high school, local high school, and she quite frequently will use these videos to supplement students that are homebound for some reason, to give them the material that they need to go forward without her class lectures, which are not recorded. For teacher support is another thing that I have noticed. I've had a lot of teachers that come to me that are teaching maybe GED or they're teaching ABE math, and all of a sudden they're saying, I haven't looked at this in a very long time, and these materials help to brush up on unfamiliar topics and concepts and procedures that your teachers might not have seen for a long time. The final thing, or the final suggestion I have for you, is my favorite. It's flipping. I use these materials for all of my classes. We teach this math course, we teach these math courses in something called a modular format. So the students actually are working at their own pace, and they're working through these videos. And then they have an online math lab that comes with their textbook, where they go to do their actual homework and their quizzes, and then I will test them. But basically they're working at computers, and they're working at their own pace. Now I say they're working at their own pace. It's as long as their pace doesn't get below what my guide is. I call it a guided pace because if they can't go as slow as they want, but they can go as fast as they want. So they can work ahead. I just caution them about getting behind. So quite often we'll do these materials will just be the content of the course. They're not getting me lecturing them anymore. The lectures are completely online, and then they go into the online labs and they do their homework and their quizzes, and then I will test them and we will move forward, or we will review and go back if they do not meet a certain proficiency. So we're using it like that. We're also using it for flipping classes. I have traditional classes that I actually do stand up in front of and teach, and I tell the students I have the same materials available to them, and I tell them to view these lectures, 2 or 3 of them, before a certain lesson. So before I teach factoring trinomials, I'm going to have them view 2 lessons on factoring trinomials. They're just short, 10 minutes, and they work the worksheet, and then they come to class. This has been a revelation for many of my students who have been out of school for a long time, who don't remember, who can't even remember what an exponent really is. You know, the concepts are familiar, but just not quite, they don't quite have it because they've been away from it for so long. So all they do is go through, like you would tell them in a history class to read this chapter in the textbook before you're going to talk about it the next day. I tell them to view these lessons and work these little handouts and bring them to class the next day. I can actually give them quiz credit for completed handouts and videos that they have done before, or extra credit or something, and it does seem to encourage them to view the material. We found that that really is something that's been beneficial to beginning algebra and developmental algebra students if they can see it first. So really, those are the ways that we have used it. I'm sure that you'll come up with more as you go through. It's really, these resources are just prepared to get students ready for college level math. To get them through the high school level math and to get them through the GED test would be sort of the same goals we have. We want to teach them a certain math proficiency, and these are the stumbling blocks that we have found for so many students, and these resources are proving to be very helpful for my students, and I hope they will be for yours. Now, my contact information, I know the webinar says it's we have at least an hour, so if you have questions, we'll be taking questions from you. But my contact information is here. I'm Kim Milner again, Indian River State College, and the best way to get in touch with me is my email address, kmilner@irsc.edu. Okay, I'm looking at the question block. I'm going to stop for just a second and make sure that I don't see any. Does anyone have anything that they would like to ask? Well, very good. I think I've given everybody time to respond. I hope you will be in contact with me if you find you need more information on the subject, or if you just want to make some comments about the resources. I would love to hear them. And other than that, I keep watching for questions, but I don't see any. I'm going to ask Joseph if he sees any and I'm missing anybody.
No, we're all good.
All right,
Actually,
we're all good then.
One just came in.
Okay. Okay, is it adaptable for use in prison? I don't see why not. I do have a really good friend who teaches GED in the prison here in Fort Pierce, and I'm not sure of what kind of online resources she has. That, I guess, would be the issue. However, if you didn't have online resources, if you didn't have the internet available, could you download and take these in and use them on computers? I don't think that would be a problem. Does that answer your question? Great, thank you. Okay, these resources, like I said, every resource that we have at IPDAE created just by educators for educators, and we're just really happy that we can help with what we're trying to do. We're all trying to educate students so that they are successful in life and successful in college, and I really hope you can make use of them. And I want to thank you for showing up today, for coming. Hopefully we have used your time very wisely, and if you have anything else that you'd like, you can get in touch with me. My email address is there. So thanks so much.